Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be looking at the India and UK Free Trade Agreement, its benefits for India. Let's start with understanding what is a FTA or a Free Trade Agreement. So basically it's a legally binding agreement. The whole purpose of having a free trade agreement is to make imports and exports easier. For example, if a cost of a product that is coming from UK is going to actually be 100 rupees only if there are no taxes or duties imposed on this. But if a tax is imposed, it might become 200, which will make this product undesirable for the customer in India, and therefore UK companies are losing the market. What if they don't have any such tariff on their products in India? This 200 rupees product will be sold at 100 rupees itself, and therefore the companies will benefit. So this free trade agreement is all about making the trade flows easier. Easier trade flows. That is the whole agenda of having a free trade agreement. To understand the context of this FTA, we have to go back to 2013, the time period when this FTA started. But the actual progress was from 2016. UK exited European Union. The world called it Brexit. Suddenly Britain stood alone. They needed new friends, new trade routes and new markets. On the other hand, India was rising. It's a massive market, a digital powerhouse and an increasingly trustworthy alternative to China. So in this, we have seen how US under Donald Trump, this is way back in 2016. So he was raising tariffs on Chinese goods, and the entire world order, which was set on the premise of globalization, is changing. So this was moving away from globalization towards deglobalization, meaning localized economies are becoming even more important. So every country began looking for other kinds of partnerships and to diverse the risk. So negotiations began, they stopped, they began again. There were many prime ministers of UK, like say for example Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak. All of them tried to secure an FTA, but India was firm, was cautious and deliberate, and we learned from our past deals that we should not sign away our domestic interests. So India always wanted to ensure that we get the best deal, because that's how negotiation should happen, right? So there were gaps on tariffs, market access, legal rules, visas, whatever may be the issue that you can think of. All those were there in the UK FTA deal. But by 2025 May, we secured this deal, and this was a comprehensive deal for both the parties, and we secured 99% of our export lines which are duty free now. The big wins for India includes that 99% of our exports are now duty free. Animal products, which were hitherto imposed a duty of 20%, now for 99.3% of our items that we are exporting to UK, they will be duty free. Processed food from 12%, 99.7% of them are having zero duty. Auto components 18% to 0%, arms 28% to 0%, machinery or electrical equipment 20% to 0%. So in sum, we gained a lot. So this benefits MSMEs, agricultural exporters, labor intensive sectors, and given the nature of these sectors, the gap between the rural areas and urban areas will also be plugged. So this will also reduce the wage gap between rural areas and urban areas. How is UK going to be benefited from this? Here we have to understand the technical term called China plus one strategy. Especially after COVID-19 and the US-China trade war, the world realized that depending too much on one country like China for manufacturing and supply chain is very risky. So they wanted to diversify their supply chain, and this China plus one strategy is one such diversification strategy. So a business or trade strategy where companies or countries reduce dependence on China by building a supply chain in at least one another country. This plus one component that you are seeing here is that, let's say Apple makes most of its phones in China. So under this plus one strategy, it starts building factories in India. This doesn't mean they are completely leaving and abandoning China, they're just spreading the risk. So here, India's role is it wants to position itself in the plus one. That is, it will offer land, it will offer digital infrastructure, skilled labor, everything that you need to produce this iPhone, and it will attract this companies which are moving away from China. So this is term number one, which you can get in prelims exam. Secondly, friendshoring. What does this mean? Again, this is a geopolitical trade policy where countries shift the supply chains to friendly, trusted partners. It's about economic security through alignment in our strategic needs. So, for example, instead of sourcing semiconductors from China, okay, China has been supplying semiconductors. So now, when you are deploying this friendshoring strategy, you will move away from China and you will look at India, Taiwan, or even South Korea. So these are our options if we are looking for semiconductors. Now India is viewed as a trusted trading partner. This is what the official documentation of India UK FTA says. So this FTA can be quoted as an example of friendshoring. So what are the new opportunities that are available for India for creation of more jobs? NASSCOM said that this deal will improve the service sector competitiveness. In this context, we have to understand certain legal terms. The first one is the Mutual Recognition Agreement. What is it? Let's understand. As per this Mutual Recognition Agreement, two countries will arrive at a consensus that they will recognize the professional qualifications and licenses of other citizens. Let's say a CA or a doctor. They can work in UK without expectation of writing an examination again there for recognition of their qualification. And it is also true for people coming from UK and working in India. So this will boost export of services. Let's say you will have many nurses, architects, engineers, lawyers. They can go to the UK and work without any duplication of effort like training again, writing the exam again, and this will save a huge cost and time for them. The second term that you need to know here is Skill Mobility Pact. What this will ensure is the flow of skilled laborers without any problems. For example, if India and UK has this Skill Mobility Pact, UK will create a quota of dedicated visa allotment for Indian IT workers. So let's say they can even allow this for Indian nurses. Actually, UK's healthcare service called the National Health Service is one of the most reputed healthcare systems across the world, which is done by the government. So a skill mobility pact which will recognize and ensure that there is a portability of certificates will create more opportunities for India's labor surplus. UK is facing a skill shortage. So this will protect the workers through a government to government framework and not through private agents. And this will ensure safe migration. So you have precision missiles used for Operation Sindor. This is the second article that we need to focus on. The speciality of this article is that it focuses on how we were able to facilitate a deterrence by precision model. Just to explain what this means, normally if we have to retaliate for any activity that was taken up by Pakistan, we had a massive collateral damage. There is a possibility that civilians can also get hurt. But thanks to India's weapons, we now have high-end weapons which can stop that from happening. So let's take a look at the weapons that were probably used by Indian Army. The weapons were not disclosed, but over the years, whatever DRDO developed, Indian Express article covered those, and we are looking at that from a prelim standpoint. The first weapon that we're talking about is hammer. The full form for this is highly agile maneuverable munition extended range. So this is an air to ground guided bomb, and this is used on Rafale or fighter jet. So how it works? It can be launched from 70 kilometers distance, and it will target bunkers, command post, radar sites, and uses laser. So these are the questions that you will be getting, or probably the statements that can be used to tweak and confuse aspirants by UPSC. Who designed this? It's France. We took this from France. Please remember this. The second missile is Scalp, or also called as Storm Shadow, which has a range of 450 kilometers and operates in all kinds of conditions, which will be based on GPS. So we can strike from as far as 450 kilometers away, which will give us the first strike capability from hostile radar range, meaning that we can still escape the radar range and attack the enemy. So this can have the ability to escape even advanced air defense mechanisms, and therefore it is very key in non-nuclear precision deterrence. The next missile that we have to talk about is Meteor. So this is an air-to-air fire and forget missile, meaning once you lock the target and launch it, you don't have to worry about it. It will just hit the target, and you can launch it from as far as 150 kilometers away, and this is very useful in avoiding an attack by fighter jets of Pakistan like F-16. This is propelled by ramjet, so it will give a sustained thrust, and therefore this will ensure long range as far as 150 kilometers. So this is for air superiority missions. Given the fact that this is air to air, India's massive edge in contested air zones, let's say for example the Western Front near Punjab, Gujarat and Kashmir, these are the areas where there is a lot of conflict, and here Meteor missile is of great use. And we have the most versatile weapon lastly, that is Brahmos, which has a speed of 2.8 to 3 Mach, that is almost 3 times the sound speed. You can launch it from anywhere, land, sea, air. That makes it extremely lethal, and this is the most dangerous weapon that we have, and also the most versatile, because they have an extended range up to 500 kilometers. So if you put them on our fighter jets like Sukhoi, okay, or even for anti-ship and land attack roles, this is extremely useful. So for maritime security purpose, for any kind of attack on the enemy, this is a perfect missile. Next up, we have something called loitering munitions, or in simple words, they are called suicide drones. So what do? They identify the target, then they detonate, self-detonation. So this is more like a suicide bomber. Okay, how does it work? It looks at an AI-driven targeting mechanism. It will lock the target on a real-time basis, and this is going to precisely strike with minimum collateral damage. So this is perfect, almost perfect for every kind of anti-terror operations, and minimizes the soldier exposure. Okay, sometimes it is called the Kalashnikov of the skies, because the same thing became very lethal in Armenia and Azerbaijan war. So this reflects India's focus on autonomous warfare and drone based retaliation also. If you are writing any answer on the modernization of India's defense systems, you can quote this loitering munitions as an example. So these articles are important in the big picture, because India's precision strike arsenal reflects a doctrinal shift towards indigenization of defense as well as modernization. So you can use this missiles as an example of a strategic significance of modern India's military operations, and Operation Sindor can also be used as a case study for the same thing. So that's it for today. Thank you.